What if I told you she might already be deeply obsessed with you and you don't even realize it? Not because she says it, not because she texts you all day, but because of the small, subtle behaviors she can't control. See, when a woman craves you on a deep emotional level, she doesn't announce it. She reveals it through patterns, reactions, and energy. In this video, you'll discover 7 powerful signs that show she's secretly thinking about you, wanting you, and emotionally drawn to you in ways she can't hide. Pay attention because once you see these signs, you can't unsee them. Emotional investment is never loud and it's rarely expressed through obvious words. A woman who is deeply craving you doesn't sit there constantly telling you how much she likes you or how important you are to her. Instead, she channels all of that intensity into her behavior, into the small, consistent actions that reveal far more than words ever could. While others may speak freely and casually, she becomes more intentional, more aware, and more present when it comes to you. You'll start to notice that she gives you a different kind of attention, one that feels focused, almost deliberate, as if she's trying to understand not just what you say, but who you are beneath it. She listens closely, remembers details that most people would forget, and brings them up later in ways that catch you off guard because it shows she wasn't just hearing you, she was absorbing you. This kind of emotional investment also shows in the way she responds to you. It's not just about replying quickly or keeping conversations going, it's about the quality of her engagement. She doesn't give you surface level reactions. She asks questions, she digs deeper, she wants to explore your thoughts, your opinions, your experiences. Even when the conversation is simple, she finds a way to make it meaningful. And that's because to her, you are not just someone to pass time with. You are someone she is mentally and emotionally attaching herself to. She may not label it, she may not even fully understand it herself, but her behavior reflects a level of care that goes beyond casual interest. You'll also notice that she invests her energy into you in ways that don't benefit her directly. She supports you, encourages you, and pays attention to things that matter to you, even if they have nothing to do with her. When you talk about your goals, your struggles, or even random thoughts, she treats them as important because they come from you. That's the difference between someone who is just interested and someone who is emotionally invested. Interest is selective, but emotional investment is consistent and selfless. She doesn't need a reason to care, she just does. And that kind of care is not something people fake for long because it requires effort, attention, and emotional presence. At the same time, her emotional investment makes her more sensitive to your behavior. She notices changes in your tone, your energy, and your level of attention. If you become distant, she feels it immediately, even if she doesn't say anything. If you give her more attention, she responds to it in a way that feels natural but slightly heightened because it matters more to her than she's willing to admit. This sensitivity is not insecurity. It's a reflection of how much she's already invested in you emotionally. The more she cares, the more aware she becomes of anything that affects the connection between you. What makes this even more powerful is that she often tries to hide it. She doesn't want to appear too invested, too available, or too emotionally involved. So she balances herself, holds back in certain moments, and controls how much she reveals. But no matter how much she tries to manage it, her actions continue to expose the truth, the consistency of her effort, the depth of her attention, and the way she prioritizes you without making it obvious all point to something deeper happening beneath the surface. Words can be controlled, filtered, and adjusted depending on what someone wants to show, but actions, especially repeated ones, are much harder to fake because they come from a place that is instinctive rather than calculated. Subtle attention seeking is one of the clearest yet most misunderstood signs of deep attraction because it doesn't look like obvious pursuit. A woman who is craving you on an emotional level is rarely going to chase you in a direct, predictable way. Instead, she positions herself in your awareness without making it look intentional. She finds small, almost insignificant reasons to interact with you, asking a question she could easily figure out on her own, starting conversations that don't necessarily have a strong purpose, or bringing up topics that allow her to stay engaged with you a little longer. On the surface, it feels casual and natural, but when you look closely, there's a pattern. She keeps finding her way back into your space, back into your attention, as if being noticed by you gives her a quiet sense of satisfaction she doesn't openly acknowledge. What makes this behavior subtle is the balance she maintains. She doesn't want to appear like she's trying too hard, so she spaces out her efforts, mixes them with moments of distance, and allows things to feel organic rather than forced. One moment she's engaging with you, creating a connection, and the next moment she pulls back just enough to avoid making it obvious. This push and pull dynamic isn't manipulation, it's her way of protecting herself while still feeding her desire to be seen by you. She wants your attention, but she wants it to feel earned, not given out of obligation. That's why she won't directly demand it. She creates situations where you naturally give it to her. You'll also notice that she becomes more present when you're around, even if she tries to act like nothing has changed. Her body language shifts slightly. She positions herself in a way that makes her more visible to you. She engages more in conversations when you're nearby, and she becomes just a little more expressive. It's not exaggerated or dramatic, but it's noticeable if you're paying attention. She might laugh a bit more, speak with a bit more energy, or subtly highlight parts of her personality that she knows will resonate with you. All of this happens without her explicitly saying, "Look at me." Yet everything in her behavior is quietly guiding your focus in her direction. Another layer of subtle attention seeking comes through her use of timing. She reaches out when it feels natural, but also slightly intentional. Messages at moments when she knows you're likely to respond. Interactions that feel spontaneous, but somehow align perfectly with your availability. It creates the illusion of coincidence, but over time, it becomes clear that she is more aware of your patterns than she lets on. She studies your rhythm, your habits, and your responsiveness, and then aligns her actions in a way that increases the chances of connection without making it obvious that she's doing so. This level of awareness doesn't come from casual interest. It comes from a deeper emotional focus on you. At the same time, she pays attention to how you respond to her efforts. If you engage with her, she subtly leans in more, becoming slightly more present and open. If you seem distracted or less responsive, she adjusts either by pulling back or by finding a different way to re enter your attention. It's almost like a quiet feedback loop where she's constantly reading your signals and adapting her behavior accordingly. This is not something she consciously plans out step by step. It's instinctive, driven by her desire to maintain a connection with you while still preserving her sense of control and self respect. What makes subtle attention seeking so powerful is that it reveals intention without exposing vulnerability too quickly. She is showing you that she wants to be part of your world, that your attention matters to her, and that she is willing to put in effort to stay connected, but she's doing it in a way that feels natural, unforced, and almost invisible unless you know what to look for. It's a quiet pursuit, one that relies on presence, timing, and emotional awareness rather than direct words or obvious actions. Jealousy without admitting it is one of the most revealing behaviors of a woman who is emotionally invested, but unwilling to fully expose how much she cares. It doesn't show up as open confrontation or dramatic reactions. Instead, it appears in small, controlled shifts in her behavior that only make sense if you understand what's happening beneath the surface. When a woman is craving you deeply, she becomes sensitive to anything that threatens her emotional position in your life, even if that position has never been clearly defined. The moment another woman enters the conversation, whether casually mentioned or visibly present, something changes in her. It's not loud, it's not obvious, but it's there in her tone, her expressions, and the way she carries herself. You might notice that she becomes slightly quieter, as if she's processing something internally, or she might do the opposite, becoming more engaged, more expressive, almost as if she's trying to reclaim your attention without directly competing. This contrast is what makes her jealousy subtle yet powerful. She doesn't want to appear insecure or overly attached, so she regulates her reactions carefully. But emotions don't disappear just because they're controlled. They leak through in behavior. A slight change in her energy, a shift in how she responds to you, or even a momentary pause before she reacts can reveal more than words ever could. It's not about what she says, it's about how differently she says it. This kind of jealousy is often tied to her internal conflict. On one side, she wants to maintain her composure and appear unaffected because showing jealousy feels like giving away her emotional position. On the other side, she can't ignore the discomfort that comes from imagining you giving attention, time, or interest to someone else. That tension creates a unique pattern in her behavior. She might ask indirect questions, trying to gather information without making it obvious why she's asking. She might downplay the situation verbally while her body language suggests something entirely different. It's a constant balancing act between hiding her feelings and being influenced by them. You'll also notice that her reactions are often delayed rather than immediate. In the moment, she might stay composed, responding in a neutral or even indifferent way. But later, her behavior shifts. She might become slightly distant, less responsive, or more reserved than usual. This delay happens because she takes time to process her emotions privately before allowing them to affect her actions. It's not that she didn't feel anything in the moment, it's that she chose not to show it right away. This controlled response makes her jealousy harder to detect, but also more meaningful because it shows she's thinking deeply about her connection with you rather than reacting impulsively. Another subtle sign appears in the way she repositions herself after feeling that sense of jealousy. Instead of confronting you or expressing what she feels, she often tries to reestablish her presence in a more understated way. She might engage with you more, show a slightly higher level of interest, or bring back the kind of energy that originally connected you. It's not about competing directly, it's about reminding you of her value without having to say it. This behavior reflects a deeper emotional strategy. She wants to secure her place in your attention without risking vulnerability by openly expressing her feelings. Her jealousy also makes her more observant. She pays closer attention to how you interact with others, noticing details that someone with casual interest would ignore. The way you speak, the amount of attention you give, the tone you use, these things become more significant to her because they help her understand where she stands. This heightened awareness isn't about control, it's about emotional investment. The more she cares, the more she watches, and the more she tries to interpret the meaning behind your actions. What makes this type of jealousy so telling is that it exists without acknowledgement. She won't label it, she won't admit it, and she may even convince herself that it's not there. But her behavior tells a different story, one where her emotions are strong enough to influence her reactions, even when she's doing everything she can to keep them hidden. This consistency is not about overwhelming you with attention or trying to dominate your time. In fact, it often appears balanced and controlled because she doesn't want to come across as too available or too invested. But even within that balance, there is a steady rhythm to her presence. She responds to you, she engages with you, and she maintains the connection without long, unexplained disappearances. Even when she's busy or occupied with other aspects of her life, she finds small ways to keep the interaction alive. It might be a short message, a quick check in, or a simple acknowledgement, but it's enough to show that you are still on her mind despite everything else competing for her attention. Availability in this context goes beyond just being physically or digitally present. It reflects her willingness to prioritize you within her daily life. Everyone has responsibilities, distractions, and limitations. But when a woman is emotionally invested, she reorganizes her time in subtle ways to make space for you. She may adjust her schedule, delay other plans, or create opportunities to connect that wouldn't exist otherwise. What makes this significant is that she doesn't announce these adjustments or seek recognition for them. From the outside, it looks effortless, but in reality, it's a deliberate choice she keeps making because of how she feels about you. You'll also notice that her effort is not dependent on external validation. She doesn't only show up when you initiate or when it benefits her in some obvious way. She contributes to the interaction consistently, bringing her own energy, thoughts, and engagement into the connection. This creates a sense of mutual flow where the relationship doesn't feel one-sided or conditional. Even if you step back slightly, she doesn't disappear completely. She maintains a level of presence that keeps the connection alive. This kind of behavior is difficult to fake because it requires genuine interest and emotional investment to sustain over time. At the same time, her consistent effort makes her more reliable in ways that go beyond simple interaction. She becomes someone you can count on to be there, not just physically, but emotionally. When you share something, she responds with attention. When you engage with her, she meets you with the same level of presence. This reliability builds a sense of trust and familiarity, even if neither of you explicitly acknowledges it. It's not about grand gestures or dramatic displays of affection. It's about the quiet assurance that she is there again and again without needing to be asked. There is also a subtle intentionality in how she maintains this availability. She doesn't make it obvious that she's prioritizing you, because doing so would expose how much she cares. Instead, she integrates you into her life in a way that feels natural and unforced. You become part of her routine, part of her mental space, and part of her emotional focus without a clear moment where it all began. This gradual integration is what makes her effort so powerful. It doesn't demand attention, but it becomes impossible to ignore once you recognize the pattern. Over time, this consistent effort and availability create a dynamic where her presence feels stable and grounded. It's not driven by mood, impulse, or convenience, but by a deeper sense of connection that keeps pulling her back towards you again and again, regardless of circumstances. Curiosity about your life is one of the most telling signs of deep emotional interest because it reflects a desire to understand you beyond the surface. When a woman is truly drawn to you, she doesn't settle for basic information or casual conversation. She becomes genuinely interested in who you are as a person, your thoughts, your experiences, your past, and even the small details that most people overlook. This curiosity doesn't feel forced or interrogative. It feels natural, almost effortless, as if she is gradually uncovering layers of you without making it obvious that she's trying to do so. The questions she asks aren't random, they're intentional, designed to bring her closer to understanding your mindset, your values, and the way you see the world. This kind of curiosity goes beyond simply asking questions. It's reflected in how she listens and what she does with the information you give her. When you share something about yourself, she doesn't just acknowledge it and move on, she holds on to it. Later, she brings it up again, connects it to something new, or uses it to deepen the conversation. This shows that she isn't just interested in the moment. She's building a mental picture of who you are over time. It's this continuity that separates genuine curiosity from casual interest. Anyone can ask questions, but not everyone remembers, connects, and expands on the answers in a meaningful way. You'll also notice that her curiosity often shifts from external aspects of your life to more internal ones. At first, she might ask about your work, your hobbies, or your daily routine, but gradually her focus becomes more personal. She wants to know what motivates you, what challenges you've faced, what excites you, and what you truly think about things that matter. These are not surface level topics, and they require a level of emotional engagement that only comes from someone who is genuinely invested. She is not just trying to pass time with conversation. She is trying to understand what drives you because that understanding makes her feel closer to you. At the same time, her curiosity is often subtle and paced. She doesn't overwhelm you with too many questions at once because she doesn't want to appear intrusive or overly intense. Instead, she spaces them out, allowing the conversation to flow naturally while gradually steering it toward deeper territory. This pacing is important because it allows her to learn about you without creating pressure or discomfort. It also gives her time to process what you share, to reflect on it, and to come back with more thoughtful engagement later. This measured approach shows that her interest is not impulsive, it's deliberate and sustained. Another layer of this curiosity is the way she pays attention to the details you might not even consider important. She notices patterns in your behavior, remembers things you casually mention, and picks up on subtle cues in how you express yourself. This level of attentiveness allows her to ask questions or make comments that feel surprisingly accurate, as if she understands you better than expected. It's not because she has special insight, it's because she has been quietly observing and processing everything you reveal, even the things you don't emphasize. This attention to detail is a clear reflection of how much mental space you occupy in her mind. Her curiosity also creates a sense of emotional presence. When she engages with you, it feels like she is fully there, focused on the interaction rather than distracted or disengaged. She gives you the sense that what you're saying matters, that your experiences are worth exploring, and that your perspective is something she values. This kind of presence is rare because it requires genuine interest and effort. It's not something that can be easily faked or maintained without real emotional investment behind it. As her curiosity deepens, it becomes less about gathering information and more about building a connection. She starts to anticipate your thoughts, understand your reactions, and relate to you in a way that feels more aligned. This shift happens gradually as the information she has gathered turns into familiarity and emotional understanding. Without explicitly stating it, she begins to position herself closer to you, not just physically or socially, but mentally and emotionally, through the simple but powerful act of wanting to know you on a deeper level. Mirroring and connection building happen on a level that most people don't consciously notice, yet they reveal a powerful form of emotional alignment. When a woman is deeply drawn to you, her mind begins to synchronize with yours in subtle, almost automatic ways. She starts to reflect your behavior, your communication style, and even your emotional tone without making a deliberate effort to do so. It's not imitation in a forced or obvious sense. It's a natural adjustment that happens because she feels connected to you and wants to maintain that sense of closeness. This mirroring can show up in the way she speaks, the words she chooses, the pace of her conversation, or even the rhythm of her responses. Over time, you may notice that interacting with her feels unusually smooth, as if there's a shared understanding that doesn't need to be explained. This alignment extends beyond communication and into body language as well. When you're around her, her posture, gestures, and movements may begin to subtly match yours. If you lean in, she leans in. If you speak calmly, her tone softens to meet yours. These shifts are often so slight that they go unnoticed in the moment, but they create a sense of comfort and familiarity that feels different from ordinary interactions. This is because mirroring reduces psychological distance. It creates the impression that both of you are operating on the same wavelength. For her, this is not a strategy she consciously applies. It's an instinctive response to feeling emotionally engaged with you. As this mirroring continues, it starts to evolve into something deeper, connection building. She doesn't just reflect who you are, she begins to integrate parts of your perspective into her own. You might notice that she starts to adopt certain viewpoints you've shared, or that she references things you've said in a way that shows they've stayed with her. It's not about losing her individuality, but about creating common ground that strengthens the bond between you. This process happens gradually as repeated interactions allow her to absorb and align with aspects of your personality that resonate with her. Another important element of this connection building is emotional synchronization. When you share a certain mood or energy, she responds in a way that matches it. If you're relaxed, she becomes more at ease. If you're enthusiastic, she engages with that same level of excitement. This ability to match your emotional state creates a sense of harmony that makes the interaction feel natural and effortless. It also reinforces the connection because it gives you the feeling of being understood without having to explain yourself. For her, this synchronization is a way of maintaining closeness, ensuring that there is no emotional disconnect between you. You may also notice that she becomes more receptive to your influence over time, not in a way that suggests control, but in a way that shows she values your perspective. She listens more closely, considers your opinions more seriously, and may even adjust her behavior slightly based on what she learns from you. This receptiveness is a key part of connection building because it shows that she is not just interacting with you on a surface level. She is allowing the connection to shape her in small but meaningful ways. This level of openness only happens when there is genuine emotional interest driving it.